5 German shepherds dumped like trash inside a rusted metal box drifting in open ocean. No land in sight, no one coming, just endless waves and sky and silence. Not even a whimper left in them, their bodies gaunt, bones jutting out beneath torn fur, tongues thick from thirst, eyes hollow. They weren't dying anymore. They were waiting the salt air, still the hunger deeper than pain, until fate sent them a heartbeat of hope standing at the front of her. Dad's old tour boat, little Lily Morgan, leaned forward, her blonde hair tangled in the wind. Then she saw something glinting metal where nothing should be. Daddy, she murmured, her voice tight with fear. Something's out there. Something's wrong. Jack Morgan lifted a weathered hand to shield his eyes, followed his daughter's finger toward the distant glimmer. He didn't realize it yet, but that forgotten container held the missing piece of his past and the future of his little girl, like the story. Hit like and comment where you're watching from. Let's go. On folks in Pelican Harbor always said Lily Morgan had the gift. They'd seen her coax feral cats into her arms and calm down panicked dogs with a single look, but it wasn't just her way. With animals, it was the look in her eyes, too old for 7 too. Knowing since the accident 2 years back when Lily had nearly drowned off the coast, her German Shepherd Scout had leaped into rough waters, dragging her to shore, gasping and limp. He died that night, but Lily came back, changed, and somehow it felt like a part of Scout stayed with her. Jack Morgan hadn't been the same since, losing Eleanor, the love of his life, the bright-eyed marine biologist who filled his world with joy and purpose. Now he ferried tourists instead of researchers on a boat named In Happier Days. Second-chance sunburn travelers instead of scientists. Jack kept moving forward because of Lily, but those who knew him well saw how his eyes always searched the horizon, as if waiting for Eleanor to return. Martha Sullivan told it straight. She was pushing 75 and didn't care who liked it. That little girl's got her mama's eyes, she'd say, quilting on her porch or shelling peas by the window. Watching the Morgans' home with a steady gaze, Eleanor could spot a dolphin's shadow before it surfaced, and Lily's just the same. The Lord give some children a touch of the other side. What she didn't see, not yet, was what she really knew about Eleanor's so-called accident, and how nothing about that day sat right in her gut. Some things weren't meant to stay hidden forever, but they had to come out when the time was right. Thomas Blackwood's glossy yacht towered over every boat in Pelican Harbor like a rich man's monument. His rescue foundation brought attention and jobs. The mayor called him a miracle. Martha called him a vulture. She noticed how his words to Jack felt too slick, and how his eyes lingered on Lily, not with warmth but calculation. Martha had seen men like him before, polished outside, rotten underneath, and she never forgot how quick he'd been to comfort Jack after Eleanor vanished, never forgot how he steered attention away from questions that still burned. Sheriff Mike Reynolds kept the town steady, a decent man with the tired look of someone who'd seen too much. He was the one who told Jack about Eleanor's body washing up in the mangroves, told him there was no sign of foul play. Just a freak accident, but it never sat right with him either, too. Many pieces that didn't quite fit, too many gaps. And now, 2 years later, Mike still found himself scanning the bay on long patrols, wondering what he missed. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look starboard, you might spot a dolphin. Jack called from the helm, his voice calm above the steady hum of the engine. The summer sun beat down on a dozen tourists, all pointing cameras toward the blue water. Jack had done this tour so many times, it felt automatic now, a way to keep himself going. Lily sat near the bow, quiet, not watching the dolphins, but staring hard at the open sea. The wind played with her sun-bleached hair, and still, she didn't move, her eyes locked on something beyond the waves. Just Martha noticed the change, just her old eyes caught Lily going still, like a bird scenting danger. Daddy. Lily, said, her voice low, nearly swept away by the wind when he didn't hear. She stood up steady as a mountain for someone so small. Daddy. This time her voice cracked like lightning. Jack turned from his chart, startled. What's wrong? Pumpkin, he called back. Keeping one hand on the wheel, Lily pointed toward a shadow on the water, something sharp and wrong, poking up from the smooth horizon. We have to check it, she said, firm. Jack peered ahead, squinting. He saw it, to a glint of metal bobbing to steady in the surf, probably trash. He started, but Lily didn't blink. No, it's not, Lily said, her voice older, suddenly stronger. There's someone alive in there. A loud tourist in floral print laughed. Your little girl's got imagination, he joked. But Lily Didn't even look at him, please, Daddy, like with Scout. The name hit Jack in the chest, memories flooding back the day Scout saved Lily, the day his world split in half. The look in Lily's eyes naughty was Eleanor's fierce and clear. He looked at his watch, calculating the delay, then turned to the group folks' mind a quick detour. He asked my daughters, got sharp eyes might be something worth seeing. The group murmured approval, curiosity, outweighing schedule. Martha just nodded to herself, eyes still on Lily. Well, I'll be. She whispered that child's her mama, all over again. As Jack adjusted course, steering toward the strange object, a weight returned to his chest, the last time he'd veered off route. Eleanor had died, but he shook it off. This wasn't like that. This was just one little detour. That's all it was. The object grew clearer as they approached a shipping container, battered red paint, eaten by salt rust curling along its edges, half sunk like it had been drifting for weeks. Stay back, Jack ordered, easing the boat alongside these things. Can tip without warning, but Lily was already leaning over the rail hands, gripping tight. Daddy. She said, there and there, I can hear them. Jack stepped forward, heart-pounding, eyes scanning the seams of the container, and that's when the silence broke a sound no one expected just when he thought he imagined it. There it was, again, a faint scratching coming from the steel box. A chill crept up his spine, defying the muggy summer air. Lily, stay on the boat, Jack ordered, his voice sharp with urgency as he cut the motor. He reached for a crowbar from the storage locker, carefully stepping onto the tilting container, testing each movement like walking a tightrope. The chatter from the tourists faded instantly. They sensed something real was unfolding. Martha instinctively moved beside Lily, her hand protective on the girl's back. God moves in strange ways, she murmured. You got your mama's eyes, Nina. She always saw things the rest of us missed. Jack inched toward the container's rusted doors, a thick padlock securing them shut. The scratching got louder, frenzied now, like panic sealed behind steel. He jammed the crowbar into the corroded latch, every muscle straining until the lock popped with a metallic crack. Back up, he warned, though no one dared get closer. Even the most nosy tourists hung back, sensing this was no show. When Jack hauled open the doors, the stench hit like a gut punch. Waste confinement, pure fear. His eyes adjusted to the shadows inside, and what he saw hollowed him out. 5 German shepherds, skeletal and broken, curled in the far corner. Their coats were filthy, ribs sharp beneath thinning fur. They didn't charge forward. They didn't even flinch. They just watched, empty-eyed too, shattered to hope. Dios mio, Jack whispered. He turned back. Lily, don't move. Martha, get the cooler, we need the water. But Lily was already moving. She clambered out of the boat, ignoring his command with the determination only children have. Before Jack could intercept her, she'd slipped into the rank darkness of the container. Lily, his heart pounded as he followed her. Inside, she was already kneeling by the dogs. It's okay, she whispered, her hand outstretched toward the biggest one, a black shepherd, marked with a white star on its chest. We came to help. To Jack's shock, the dog, who easily could have seen her as a threat, lowered its head slowly and let her touch him. His eyes never left hers. Jack could swear there was something familiar in that look. They're cold, Daddy, Lily murmured. They need blankets and water. Martha appeared at the door, bottles in hand. A Senar, she breathed. Then, without hesitation, she got to work like someone who'd seen life at its worst. Careful, Nina. Let them sip slow to muchel. Hurt them. By now, the tourists were crowding the rail of the second chance. Cameras forgotten, the rescue unfolding before them felt sacred. Jack's thoughts scrambled. They were an hour from shore. The container was barely seaworthy, and the morning radio had warned of a fast-moving storm. As Lily cupped water in her hands and gently offered it to the black dog, Jack spotted something that turned his blood to ice. A tattoo numbers and a strange symbol inside each dog's ear. These aren't strays, he said low to Martha. Someone put them here. ... Left them. Martha's face, carved with years, hardened. Evil don't always wear a face, Jack. Your Eleanor knew that. He opened his mouth to ask what she meant when the radio blared back to life. The Coast Guard, small craft advisory. The storm was coming in hard and fast. We have to load them, Jack said. Lily, get back on the boat. I'll bring the dogs. But Lily shook her head, still petting the black shepherd. "This one's Shadow," she said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "He looks just like Scout. Look at the star, Daddy." Jack leaned closer, his heart skipping. The white star on the dog's chest was identical to Scout's there. Doghood died saving Lily. "And this is Max," Lily added, pointing to an older, grandma's-old male. "That's Luna. She's the one with the torn ear. Rusty's the reddish one, and Bear, he's the big one." Jack knelt beside her, stunned. "Lilypad, how do you know their names?" She looked up, her eyes glowing with certainty. "They told me, Daddy." Thunder cracked in the distance, cutting off further questions. Jack stood, urgent again. "Martha, get the others below deck. We need room to work." He turned to the dogs. "Let's get you out of this hell." One by one, Jack lifted the dogs onto the second chance. Shadow, despite his weakness, managed to walk with Lily's help. The tourist far from annoyed pitched in eagerly. Coats became makeshift bedding. Water was passed around. A woman pulled dog treats from her purse. "I have a shepherd at home," she whispered. As Jack radioed the Coast Guard with their situation, something deep inside him shifted. This wasn't luck. This wasn't random. The tattoos, the starvation, the uncanny resemblance to Scout. It all meant something. Martha, watching him, spoke, softly. "Things don't wash up by accident, Jack, your Eleanor used to say. Everything in the sea comes ashore where it's meant to." As they sailed toward Pelican Harbor with Thunder behind them, Lily sat among the dogs, tending to them gently. Shadow lay beside her, alert, guarding her like Scout once did. Rain battered the windows of the tiny clinic in Pelican Harbor. Dr. Sarah Bennett adjusted her glasses and worked methodically, transforming her modest space into a dog. She was petite, but her voice held command. "These dogs weren't just abandoned," she said, probing Luna's bloated belly. "They were tortured." Luna let out a faint cry. "This one's in critical shape. Dehydrated, starved, internal bleeding might not make it through tonight." Jack hovered by the door, soaked and silent. He'd tried to convince Lily to go home. She refused. She was now curled on the clinic floor beside Shadow, her fingers buried in his fur. Though frail, the black dog's eyes tracked every movement. With laser focus, watching, waiting, ready. Jack paced the narrow clinic lobby, cell pressed to his ear. The Coast Guard needed a statement about the sealed container, and Sheriff Reynolds had more than a few questions about the bizarre rescue. The tourists on the second chance had already spread the story like wildfire through Pelican Harbor before they even docked. Now, mainland reporters were ringing off the hook. "These markings," Dr. Bennett said, lifting Luna's ear to reveal a faded tattoo. "This is a classification system. I've seen something like it in military or working dogs. But this one here," she pointed to a faint arrow crossed by a jagged line. "This isn't part of any certified program I've ever seen." In the corner, Martha Sullivan rolled a rosary through fingers twisted by arthritis, though she hadn't stepped inside a church in years. "Wickedness," she mumbled, almost to herself, "just like the kind your Eleanor uncovered." Jack froze, turning sharply. "What are you talking about, Martha?" Before the old woman could answer, the clinic's bell jingled above the door. In walked Thomas Blackwood, reeking of expensive cologne and confidence. Water ran from his tailored coat and pooled on the linoleum. Jack gave him a stiff nod, his posture tightening the way it always did around Thomas since Eleanor's passing. There was a time when they were close, but something had shifted. Jack never figured out exactly when. Maybe it was when Blackwood took over Eleanor's memorial without asking, or when he tried to buy the second chance under the guise of helping Jack financially. "Thomas," Jack muttered. "Didn't think you'd show. When I heard about the shepherds, I had to." Blackwood's voice was smooth, too smooth. He moved toward the exam room, but halted when Shadow rose up massive. Alert, unmoving, placing himself squarely between Blackwood and Lily. A deep growl echoed in his chest. "Shadow doesn't like you," Lily said simply, not even glancing. "Up, Shadow." Blackwood raised an eyebrow, already naming them. "They already had names," Lily answered calmly. "I just know what they are." Dr. Bennett stepped in quickly, smoothing the tension with her clinical tone. "They're severely traumatized, Mr. Blackwood. It's normal for them to be defensive." Blackwood gave a nod, all practiced grace. Naturally. Actually, I'm here to help. My foundation's facility is equipped for trauma. Care we could take them today. No. Lily's voice was soft, but there was no mistaking the steel. In it, she lifted her eyes at last, staring directly into Blackwood's. Jack blinked. He hadn't heard that tone from her since Eleanor. From the corner, Martha made a strange sound, half chuckle, half grunt. Kids got instincts, she muttered, just like her mama. Blackwood's polished smile twitched. I understand the attachment, sweetheart, but these dogs need professionals. My sanctuary there, staying with us, Jack cut in, his voice firmer than he intended. He wasn't sure where it came from, only that it felt right. Dr. Bennett hesitated. She was caught Blackwood's foundation helped fund the clinic, but the Morgans were here in flesh and blood. I can monitor them for a few days, she offered. Let's stabilize them first, then discuss long-term plans. At least let me pay for their care, Blackwood offered, already reaching into his wallet. That's the least I can do. How kind of you, Martha said, dry as bone, especially since you haven't asked where they were found. Or why. The room fell still. Thunder cracked outside, flashing lightning that briefly lit Blackwood's face. For a second, Jack saw something behind his eyes, cold, distant, calculating. Where exactly did you find them? Blackwood asked, his voice suddenly even. Before Jack could respond, Lily did. Inside a locked shipping container, someone put them there to die. Her eyes didn't move from Blackwood. Someone mean. Blackwood laughed lightly. It sounded rehearsed. Out of the mouths of babes, whoever did it should be punished. He turned to Jack. Talk to Mike? Animal cruelty's a felony. I already did, Jack replied. He's coming when the rain lets up. Good, Blackwood said, checking his watch. I've got a call with our partners in Miami. He handed Dr. Bennett a business card. Please update me on their condition. My offer still stands. As he turned to go, Shadow's growl rose louder, unmistakably hostile. Blackwood froze, hand on the door. That one's got a mean streak, he said over his shoulder. Dog like that with trauma? I wouldn't leave him near Lily. Shadow would never hurt me, Lily replied, stepping forward and wrapping her arms around the dog's neck. And to everyone's surprise, the massive shepherd didn't flinch. Instead, he licked her cheek gently, body relaxing, after Blackwood. Left, Dr. Bennett turned to Jack, visibly concerned. He's not entirely wrong. These dogs, whatever they've been through, we can't predict how they'll react. They'll be fine, Lily insisted, with a confidence only a child could muster. From her coat pocket, she pulled something Small Scout's old leather collar. Look, Daddy, with careful hands. She fastened the collar around Shadow's neck. Despite the dog's emaciated frame, the collar slipped on snug, almost like it belonged there. Shadow stood taller somehow, as if something long lost had clicked into place. It fits him, Lily whispered, just like it did Scout. Jack's breath caught. The resemblance had always been there, the same star-shaped patch of white, the same sharp eyes, that same instinct to protect her. But now, with that collar, well, butter my biscuit, Martha murmured. Would you look at that? Dr. Bennett cleared her throat. I need to prep IVs for Luna and get the others on antibiotics. Jack can. I talk to you outside. Once in the hallway, her clinical calm gave way to quiet urgency. Those tattoos, they worry me. They're not just identifiers. They're like military codes, Jack asked. Close but off, she said. I took photos, sent them to a colleague who handles Military Canine South, and there's more. Her voice dropped. These dogs weren't just dumped, Jack. They were erased. Jack rubbed his face, mind racing. Why would anyone do that? I don't know, but Shadow He's got a chip. I ran it. And it's encrypted. Doesn't show up on any public registry. Something sharp cut through Jack's thoughts and memory. Eleanor, late at night, hunched over her laptop at the kitchen table, her voice shaking. Jack, she had whispered, I found something ugly. And there are people who will do anything to keep it buried quiet. That was 2 days before it all changed. I need to get back to Lily. Jack said suddenly, his tone edged with urgency. As they re-entered the exam room, his eyes locked onto his daughter, curled fast asleep against Shadow's side. The other shepherds had gathered in a loose protective ring around Herhan, instinctive. shield. Even Luna, frail as she was, had pulled herself forward. Resting just inches from the girl, Martha raised her eyes from the chair in the corner. While y'all were jowing out there, that little one had herself an idea. Went straight to the supply closet, grabbed some alcohol, and cleaned up Shadow's ear. She pointed her bent, time-worn finger. Looked close, real close, at what she found under all that grime. Jack knelt beside Lily, carefully lifting the dog's ear. Beneath the official-looking ink was a faint crescent-shaped birthmark. His breath caught. "Scout had this exact mark," he whispered. "Eleanor used to say it looked like the moon goddess kissed him." His gaze flicked to Martha. "What are the odds?" "Ain't about odds," Martha replied, her voice low and steady. "Some things, some souls, they find their way back, whether we're ready or not." Dr. Bennett frowned. "Are you implying this dog's related to your old pet?" "That would be a wild coincidence." Martha chuckled without humor. "Now there's your textbook token. Some truths don't come with footnotes." She locked eyes with Jack. "Eleanor came to me just a week before she vanished. Had photos of dogs locked up in cages. Told me she traced M2 Blackwood's place out on Miller's Point. Said she was going to blow the lid off whatever was going on." Jack felt the ground shift under him. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Would it have changed anything? Brought her back?" Martha asked, her tone sharp. "All it would have done was get you killed too. Leave that child alone in the world." She leaned forward. "Timing matters, Jack Morgan." These dogs came to Lily now for a reason. A deep rumble of thunder cracked above them, making everyone flinch. Everyone except Lily, who slept on peaceful in the circle of fur. "I think," Martha said, slower now, as if weighing each word, "Eleanor's been trying to speak to you for 2 years. And now, finally, you're hearing her." As if responding, Shadow raised his head and looked straight at Jack. Those eyes held something more in alertness, a depth that made Jack's skin prickle. In that moment, Jack knew. "They're coming home with us," he said, firm and clear. All of them. Dr. Bennett opened her mouth, but stopped. She saw something in Jack's face, the same steel Eleanor had once loved. "I'll need supplies," he continued. "Food, meds, bedding. I'll cover whatever it takes." Martha gave a curt nod. "Now, you're thinking like Eleanor's man." She pushed herself up from the chair with effort. "I'll be staying a while, helping keep an eye on things. Those dogs ain't the only ones need watching." Outside, the storm howled and spit, but inside that small exam room, Jack felt something he hadn't in years. A reason. Whatever darkness tied these dogs to Eleanor's death, he was going to dig until he unearthed it for her. For Lily, and for the animals she'd risked everything to save. And maybe, just maybe, for himself, the Morgan house had changed overnight. Jack had turned the old sunroom into a quiet recovery space, lining the tile with every blanket he could find. Water bowls and soft bedding filled the corners. By mid-morning, sunlight spilled in across the floor in golden patches. Bear, the biggest of the dogs, stretched out in one of them, belly up, half-dashed dreaming. 3 days had passed since they brought the dogs home. 3 days of sleepless care, mixing meds into soft meals, and Lily barely leaving their sides. Luna, still critical, required daily visits from Dr. Bennett. But even she had started showing signs of light. "She ate by herself today," Lily announced as Jack walked in with breakfast. She sat cross-legged near Luna's makeshift bed, her eyes ringed with exhaustion but shining with pride. Luna gave a feeble tail wag when Shadow approached. "That's real progress," Jack said, kneeling beside her. "But you know what'd be even better? You eating too, maybe sleeping somewhere other than this floor." Lily shook her head, stubborn. "I can't yet. Luna cries when I leave." From the kitchen, Martha stood watching, coffee in hand. "Girl's got her mama's fire," she muttered. And her gift, it was that gift, the one Eleanor had carried, that now revealed itself. Lily seemed to know what each dog needed before they did. Where to scratch, when to feed, who needed quiet. And the dogs, they responded. Relaxed under her touch. Watched her with a reverence that couldn't be taught. "Sheriff Reynolds called," Martha said, stepping forward. "He's coming over. Says he found something." Jack nodded, rubbing his eyes. He hadn't slept more than a couple hours since the night they brought the dogs back. Instead, he'd pored through Eleanor's notebooks, hoping for answers. So far, all he had were scribbles and conservation reports. Nothing clear, nothing useful. The doorbell cut through the silence. All 5 dogs stiffened. Shadow moved in front of Lily, Max, and Rusty, flanking the entrance. Even Luna lifted her head, eyes alert. "Well, damn," Sheriff Mike Reynolds muttered as Jack let him in. "That's some home security system." "They're not regular strays," Jack said. "We figured that out fast." Reynolds nodded, then leaned in. "I didn't come just about that container. No match on any registry. It's like it never existed." He cast a look toward the sunroom where Lily sat with the dogs, but he pulled a folder from inside his jacket. "These are the photos of the tattoos. Sarah sent M to a buddy. Not just any buddy guy with ties to the FBI." Jack's chest tightened. "The FBI's involved now, not officially," Reynolds said. "But what he sent back, you need to see this." He opened the folder, revealing printed photos. These were taken during a raid on a facility in Arizona. 18 months ago, private K-9 training camp. Jack leaned closer. The images showed German shepherds, muzzled, caged, scarred. One by one, the same tattoo shapes stared back at him. Each of the dogs bore matching tattoos, just like Shadow's. According to what the facility claimed, they were bred for high-tier security work. Contracted out to private firms, Reynolds kept going, his tone tightening, but the practices used there way past unethical. "We're talking serious animal abuse. They shut the place down eventually, but the guy running it, gone, vanished before any arrests were made." He paused. "The money trail leads back to a shell company, and that shell's tied to a holding firm registered right here in Florida." "Blackwood?" Jack muttered, the name thick on his tongue like ash. Reynolds raised his hand, signaling caution. "I never said that, and there's nothing concrete. No smoking gun tying Blackwood directly to it, and he's no small fish. He's got deep pockets and powerful connections. Accusing someone like that, gotta have hard evidence." "Which we don't," Jack said sharply, frustration bleeding into his voice. "Not yet," the sheriff replied, quietly, "but I figured you needed to know what we're up against." He leaned in. "If there is a connection, we're not dealing with amateurs. These people know how to clean up after themselves, including wiping out any living proof." The words hit Jack hard. His mind flashed to the sealed container, adrift in open waters, far from any shipping lane, carrying 5 dogs that never should have been discovered. Martha appeared in the doorway, her face pale and tight. "You both might want to see this," she said, motioning toward the front of the house. Jack and Reynolds followed her to the window. A sleek black SUV idled across the street, tinted windows hiding whoever sat inside. A man wearing sunglasses stepped out and began snapping photos of the house with a professional-grade camera. "They're not even pretending to be subtle," Reynolds muttered. "They've been there since dawn," Martha added grimly. "Different car than yesterday, but same drill." Jack looked at her, eyes narrowing. "Yesterday," she nodded. "Blue sedan. Took off only after Mrs. Peterson started taking pictures of him with her phone." Reynolds frowned. "You should have called me." "And said what?" Martha snapped. "They're parked on a public street. It's not illegal. Besides, the dogs know something's off. They've been keeping watch from the windows all night." Almost on cue, Shadow appeared at their side, his body tense, eyes locked on the SUV. The fur along his back bristled, but he stayed quiet. "I'll go have a word with our photographer," Reynolds said, reaching for his hat. "Won't accuse him, just let him know he's been noticed." As the sheriff stepped out, Jack turned to Martha. "I need to know everything Eleanor told you. No more filters, Martha. If these people are watching my home, watching Lily, I need to know the truth." For the first time, Martha's steady presence wavered. Jack saw the exhaustion in her posture, the weight of years she usually carried with pride now drooping in her shoulders. "She came to me because she trusted I'd keep her secret," she said softly. "Eleanor always had a heart bigger than her good sense. You know how she was." A sad smile ghosted across her face. She was photographing dolphins near Miller's Point when she noticed something off at Blackwood's estate guards with dogs, barbed wire, parts of the property hidden from satellite maps. "That's not illegal," Jack replied. "Rich people are paranoid about their privacy." "I told her the same thing," Martha nodded. But Eleanor, she always had a nose for truth, she continued. She borrowed a boat not yours. Didn't want to pull you in and took underwater photos of outflow pipes by Blackwood's land. Found signs of chemical dumping. She started researching what kind of operation would produce that kind of runoff. Jack's stomach twisted. Turned out it was a dog program, but not just training, Martha said, her voice tightening. Enhancement. Drugs, conditioning, gene selection, the works. You're 5. They were probably rejects, too strong-willed to be broken. A cold shiver crawled down Jack's spine. Was close. She had evidence and needed one last trip before going public. She had more than suspicions. Martha nodded slowly. Proof? Photos, water samples, records from a whistleblower inside the operation. Her voice struck to a hush. She'd hid everything before she took that last boat ride. Told me if anything happened to her, the truth would come out eventually. Jack stared. And you didn't go to the police? Or tell me? Not once in 2 years. Martha's eyes didn't flinch. The night they found her boat, 2 men came to my door. Said they were Coast Guard investigators. Polite, official-looking, asked what Eleanor had shared with me about her environmental work. Never said the word evidence, but it was clear that's what they were after. She swallowed hard. While one distracted me, the other slipped through my house. Later, I realized Eleanor's files were gone. Her voice trembled. That's when I knew it wasn't an accident. So you stayed silent to protect yourself. Jack's voice cracked with fury. No, Martha snapped back, to protect Lily. Her eyes brimmed with tears. Those men made it clear accidents could happen, even to little girls who like to swim in the ocean. A long silence passed. I'm not proud of it, Jack. I've carried that guilt every single day. But I did what I thought would keep Lily alive. Jack's anger ebbed. He had made the same choice, hadn't he? Clung to the official story to protect Lily's world. Suddenly, a shout rang from the sunroom. Daddy! Luna's getting worse. Lily's voice cracked with panic. Jack and Martha rushed in. Luna was convulsing violently on her dog bed, foam gathering at her mouth. She was fine, Lily cried, crouching beside her. Then she just started shaking. Jack grabbed his phone, heart hammering. Before he could dial, Shadow nudged his arm, leading him toward the bed. The black shepherd pawed at the blanket, insistent. He's trying to show us something, Lily said through tears. Jack pulled the blanket back. Beneath Luna lay a small pile of kibble knot, the prescription food Dr. Bennett had given them, but regular store-bought pieces. I didn't feed her that, Lily said quickly. We've only used the food Dr. Bennett gave us. Martha moved with sudden precision, grabbing a plastic bag and collecting the kibble. Poison, she said. Flatly, someone got inside. Jack's chest turned to ice. He looked around. No signs of forced entry. The doors locked. Window shut, yet someone had slipped in. Left poisoned food where Luna would find it. Get her to the clinic, now, Dr. Bennett said urgently over the phone after Jack relayed the symptoms. It sounds like strychnine poisoning. We don't have much time. The next few hours flew by in a whirlwind. Jack raced Luna to the vet clinic with Lily in the back seat, while Martha stayed behind to secure the house and care for the rest of the dogs. Sheriff Reynolds took up position outside, watching for anything suspicious inside the clinic. Dr. Bennett worked with desperate urgency-inducing vomiting, pumping Luna's stomach, administering activated charcoal. Who would do this? Lily asked, her voice trembling, pale fingers clutching Jack's sleeve as they waited in the lobby. Why would someone hurt Luna? Jack had no gentle answer. Someone had targeted the most vulnerable of the dogs, the one already scarred, already broken. It wasn't random, it was a message. You're not safe. A nurse appeared in the doorway. Mr. Morgan. Dr. Bennett would like to speak with you, alone. Her eyes flicked to Lily, who looked up in worry. Jack crouched in front of his daughter. Stay right here, Lilybug. Don't move. Okay, I'll be right back. Double quotes Dr. Bennett's face told him the truth before she said a word. We did all we could, Jack. The poison worked fast. Her body was already weak from the trauma she suffered. She's fading. She's dying, Jack whispered. The vet nodded, sorrow in her eyes. The kindest thing now is to let her go without pain. She hesitated, then added, and this wasn't an accident. The toxicology is clear this was deliberate. Jack raked a hand through his hair. His mind went to Lily, her faith, her belief that Luna would live. Can we wait for the sheriff? He'll want to preserve evidence. Already done, Bennett said, placing a hand gently on his arm. We've got samples, but Jack, whoever did this, knew what they were doing. This wasn't just cruelty, it was control. I know, he said quietly. That's why I need a favor, Lily. She needs to say goodbye. She has to know we did everything we could. Back in the lobby, Lily hadn't moved a muscle. But she wasn't alone anymore. Shadow sat right beside her, ears alert, body tense guarding her like a soldier. Jack froze. Shadow. He scratched at the door like he knew she was here. The receptionist said, startled. Scared the hell out of me. Shadow had been locked inside the sunroom when they left miles away. Yet here he was, right where he was needed most. Luna's really sick, Mia, Jack said softly, kneeling to Lily's eye level. Dr. Bennett did everything she could, but sometimes ... we have to let go, even when it hurts. Tears welled up in Lily's blue eyes, but she didn't fall. Apart, can I tell her goodbye? I don't want her to feel scared, of course. Jack glanced at Shadow. He should stay here, though. No, Lily interrupted gently but firmly. She wants all of us. She needs her family. He couldn't argue with that. Together, they stepped into the sterile treatment room where Luna lay. Her breaths came shallow and slow, her once strong frame now skeletal and broken. Lily walked to her side, Shadow trailing quietly behind. Luna, Lily whispered, her fingers brushing through the dog's matted fur. You don't have to fight anymore. You were so brave. Jack watched in awe as Luna's eyes fluttered open, just a little drawn by Lily's voice. But it wasn't. Lily, she looked at, her fading gaze locked onto Shadow's. There was something in that look. Not pain, not fear, just ... understanding. She says it's okay, Lily said softly. She's ready. Dr. Bennett looked to Jack. He couldn't speak, but he nodded. The injection was quick, gentle. As Lily whispered love and comfort, Luna's breathing slowed ... and then ceased. She's not hurting anymore. Then he returned to Lily, leaning his weight into her like a pillar. Outside, dusk had settled over Pelican Harbor. The sun bled into the water, casting everything in golden shadow. Jack's phone buzzed. A message from Martha, all clear. Reynolds found a cut window screen, kitchen. He looked at Lily Radid, but standing strong-end at Shadow, still guarding her dot. Somehow, the dog knew. Somehow, he had found them. We're going to find who did this, Jack said aloud, more a vow than a statement. And they're not gonna get another chance. I know who it was, Lily replied with eerie calm, the man who watches the house, the one who took Mommy. Jack froze. What did you just say? Lily's eyes drifted toward some far-off memory. I've been dreaming, Daddy. Ever since Shadow came, I see her, Mommy, on her boat. She's taking pictures. Then this big white boat comes, men in black. Mommy runs, ... but they catch her. One of them was the man from the doctor's office, the one with the nice smile. But he wasn't smiling that day. Jack's heart thundered. Lily had been just 5 when Eleanor vanished. They said she drowned accidentally, swept overboard. But Lily had never spoken of seeing it happen. Not once. Why didn't you tell me before? They weren't dreams. Before, Lily said plainly, they were just feelings. But now, with Shadow, I can see it all. As if on cue, Shadow pressed closer, his eyes meeting Jack's with a knowing look. Behind them, the clinic door swung open. Dr. Bennett appeared, holding a small object between tweezed fingers. This was embedded under Luna's skin. She said not a regular microchip. Jack took it. Tiny, metal, almost invisible. What is it? Hard to say, Bennett admitted. But if one dog had a day all might, a tracking device, maybe. Jack's brain shifted into overdrive. That's how they found them. That's how Blackwood showed up so fast. We need to check every dog, he said sharply. On the way home, Jack scanned the rearview mirror over and over, tension knotting his spine. Shadow sat tall in the back seat, Lily curled against his fur, her little hand gripping his collar. We're gonna have to leave for a bit, Jack said, as they turned onto their street. Just until we get this figured out, because of what Mommy found, Lily asked, her voice clear despite the weight behind it. Because of the bad stuff Mr. Blackwood did to the dogs, Jack hesitated. "We don't know for sure. But yeah, I think this is all connected." Martha met them at the door. Shotgun resting on her hip, Reynolds found boot prints by the side yard. She said grimly. Jack nodded once. The storm was coming back to Pelican Harbor, but this time they were ready. She was no amateur, Jack said, voice low but firm. They had a system. These people knew exactly what they were doing. He held up the tiny chip between his fingers, barely bigger than a grain of rice. "We need to sweep the other sea, if they're tagged to. Then we pack. We can't risk staying here another night." The old woman gave a grim nod. "Already," stuffing Lily's jacket into a duffel, "I started packing for the girl, and you, but before you go, there's something you ought to see." She led them down the narrow hallway to Eleanor's old studio room Jack had mostly avoided since she passed. "While you were gone, Shadow kept pawing at the floor in here. Wouldn't stop, so I checked. Right there, smack in the center one of the floorboards was already loosened." Her finger pointed to a small hollow under the floor. Tucked inside was a waterproof case. "Didn't open it," Martha said softly. "Figured that was your call." Jack froze, breath caught. Martha's voice came back to him clear as the day Eleanor vanished. "She told me if anything ever happened, the truth would surface." When it mattered, his hands, trembling now, reached for the box. Whatever Eleanor had uncovered, whatever got her killed, was likely inside. The weight of that moment settled on him like a lead vest. Luna was already dead. A warning. He looked at Lily, curled up on the couch, and at Shadow, standing alert. Beside her, the other dogs watched in silence from the hallway. There was no turning back. For Eleanor, for Lily, and for every single dog they tried to break, Jack said. His fingers found the latch. The Pelican Harbor courthouse rose like a faded monument against the clear morning sky, its old white columns catching the sunlight. Jack climbed the wide stone steps, one hand on Lily's back, the other holding the case. Sheriff Reynolds walked alongside his badge, catching glints of light, shielding them from the reporters swarming below. "Keep your eyes down." "Stay right next to me," Jack whispered to Lily as flashbulbs exploded nearby. "Just like we practiced." She nodded, chin firm. "I won't say anything about Mommy's box, or the bad people who came to the house." Inside that sealed case had been Eleanor's truth, photos of Blackwood's Miller's Point compound, chemical logs describing illegal drug use on dogs, and even video clips grainy but unmistakable of German shepherds being tortured under the guise of training. And among them, Shadow, Max, Rusty, Bear, and Luna. Eleanor had uncovered a black market system that pushed dogs past their limits with drugs, fear, and isolation, turning them into hide-lore obedient assets. Shadow and the rest had resisted, and those who resisted were marked. For disposal, the ones who broke sold to the highest bidder. Jack had the evidence, but Blackwood's lawyers were quick filing motions, declaring the dogs stolen assets of the Blackwood Foundation for Animal Welfare. Today's hearing would decide whether Jack kept the 4 surviving shepherds, whether they were victims or property. Reynolds caught Jack's eye as they neared the door. "You know we're walking into a fix," the sheriff muttered. "Judge Wilson's been in Blackwood's pocket for years. We may not win, but maybe. We can stall. We've got Eleanor's evidence," Jack said, touching the satchel strapped across his chest. The originals were hidden back at Martha's. "Unlawfully gathered evidence," Reynolds said under his breath. "I can back up the tattoos and that toxic container, but if we hit the rest too hard, the judge could throw it all out." They entered the courtroom. Blackwood sat at the plaintiff's table, polished suit gleaming, posture smooth and relaxed every inch, the image of control. Jack's rumpled khakis and worn boots looked painfully out of place. At Blackwood's side sat a white-haired attorney, and a woman Jack had never seen before. Clean-cut, sterile. "That's Dr. Vanessa Reed," Reynolds murmured. "Head researcher, animal behavior expert. Officially, she's a voice for humane treatment." On paper, the judge appeared gaunt and tired, his robe slightly wrinkled, frown lines deeply etched. This hearing concerns temporary custody of 4 German shepherds presently housed with Jack Morgan. The judge intoned, monotone and unimpressed, said dogs are also claimed as property of the Blackwood Foundation. Blackwood's attorney stood, voice calm and practiced. "Your Honor, the matter is simple. These dogs are part of a federally registered program. They were being transported when they were unlawfully taken. We can provide serial numbers matching the tattoos on each dog's ear. The Foundation has invested millions in their development for therapeutic and military use. He presented a stack of neat papers. Mr. Morgan may have meant well, but he committed theft. We are merely asking for our property back. Jack's jaw tensed as the courtroom murmured. Lies flowed like silk. The judge's eyes narrowed, gave a subtle nod, flipping through the documents. Every now and then, he glanced toward Jack, skepticism barely hidden. When Jack's public defender stood, he looked nervous. Your Honor, my client rescued these dogs from what appeared to be a floating death trap in international waters. No tags, no food, no water. These weren't escaped assets. They were discarded. Under maritime salvage laws and current animal protection statutes, Mr. Morgan acted lawfully. The judge didn't blink. Do you have proof that these animals were intentionally abandoned rather than lost? A silence followed. Then Jack's attorney spoke again. We request permission to call Lily Morgan to the stand. The courtroom stirred as 7-year-old Lily walked with quiet poise to the front. In her pale blue dress and braids, she looked even younger. Yet there was steel in her spine. The clerk administered the oath, adjusted gently for her adjourned. She sat with her legs swinging off the floor, hands folded neatly. Lily, the attorney said softly, can you tell the court what happened the day you found the dogs? Her voice was steady. We were on our boat. I saw something shiny way out where boats don't go. I told Daddy we had to check. It felt like someone needed help. And what did you find? A big metal box. Locked. From the outside, she whispered, inside were 5 dogs. They were thin and scared. Couldn't even stand up. No food, no water. Did the box look like it just fell off a boat? Lily shook her head, eyes hardening. No, someone put them there. She shook her head with quiet conviction. No, Sit was placed there deliberately. The lock was brand new, shiny, like it had just come from the store. But the container, that thing was old, rusted, dented. Blackwood's attorney objected to what he called speculation, but the judge waved him off, letting Lily go on. Maybe it was her voice, clear, unwavering, too steady for a kid her age. Can you describe the dog's condition when you found them? Her composure wavered. They were dying, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Someone had hurt them bad, Luna already had. She stopped, swallowed. She had wounds inside. Dr. Bennett said nothing could be done. Someone did that to her on purpose, not once. Again and again. Objection. Blackwood's attorney stood. Abruptly, she can't know the full medical history of these animals. Sustained, the judge replied. Witness will limit her statements to direct observation. Lily lifted her chin. I did observe them. Their fur was covering old scars, burns, and shadow. The black shepherd his paws had read. Raw lines like he'd been shocked. Dr. Bennett found them during his exam. The technical accuracy in her words, coming from such a young girl, made several people in the courtroom squirm. Thank you, Lily, her attorney said softly. Just one more thing. How did you know their names? This was the risky part. They'd agreed no mention of her unique bond with the animals. But Lily didn't hesitate. They had names etched into the inside of their collars. Tiny, real hard to see, until we cleaned them up, a clean lie. Jack's chest tightened. With both pride and unease, she was protecting them, just like he taught her. As Lily stepped down, Blackwood's attorney rose, shifting gears. No more objections. Instead, he leaned on arm Lily. Finding those dogs must have been terrifying, he cooed, false concern dripping from his tone. And it's clear, you've grown quite fond of them. That's touching. But, sometimes adults understand things children don't. These dogs weren't pets. They were part of a very special program. They were being trained to help injured soldiers. Do you understand that? Lily stared at him, unflinching. Is that why someone poisoned Luna in our house? To help soldiers. A ripple of gasps filled the room. The judge slammed his gavel. Jury will disregard that last statement. But it was too late. It landed. No more questions, Blackwood's attorney muttered, rattled. The Foundation's next witness caused a stir. Man in full military dress blues stepped to the stand. Colonel James Harrison, he introduced himself. Officer for Veteran Service Dogs. The Blackwood Foundation has played a major role in supplying highly trained shepherds to wounded vets. He went on, painting the dogs as heroes in progress. Their loss a blow to disabled veterans awaiting service animals. Jack leaned in toward his lawyer. He's full of it. The records show these dogs weren't going to soldiers, they were tagged for private contractors. We can't use those records, his attorney hissed. Not without revealing how we got them. Colonel Harrison kept talking, sidestepping any questions about training specifics. I'm not involved in day-to-day procedures, he said. Smoothly, but I can attest to the quality of the animals. Jack felt the ground slipping beneath them. The judge looked impressed, nodding along. Even the gallery seemed swayed by the uniform and the patriotic appeal. That's when the courtroom doors creaked open. Martha Sullivan entered, slow and steady, cane-tapping Sunday hat, sitting high on her head like a woman just there to observe. But she wasn't alone. Right behind her came a man in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Jack's truck. Silver hair, posture like stone. Your Honor, he said, voice calm but commanding, I'd like to address the court as an amicus witness. The judge blinked. And you are Senator Robert Caldwell, chair of the Armed Services Oversight Committee. A wave of whispers swept the room. Blackwood's face didn't flinch. But Jack saw his lawyer straighten like he'd just been kicked. This is highly irregular, the judge said, though now his tone carried a trace of reverence. So is misleading a court by disguising a non-sanctioned program as military. Senator Caldwell replied, steady as a loaded gun. Colonel Harrison is testifying in uniform about a program the military does not recognize. That's a UCMJ violation. Colonel Harrison flushed. Senator, I don't understand what I'm not implying. Colonel Caldwell cut him off, I'm declaring. He stepped forward, handed the judge a sealed folder. This is a cease and desist order. My committee reviewed the Blackwood program 6 months ago and rejected it for ethical violations. The judge opened the folder, eyes darting across the contents. His whole demeanor changed. We're going to reassess to review this, he said, barely hiding his discomfort. As people filed out, Jack made his way to Martha and the senator. How did you? Martha's eyes sparkled. Did you think your mama only kept things in that little tin box? She was sharp. She mailed copies of her findings to folks who mattered. She gestured toward Caldwell. Robert here was one of her old professors. She contacted him before she vanished. We've been working the background for months. Caldwell added, you finding those dogs. That sped everything up. Across the courtroom, Blackwood was deep in conversation with his legal team. His mask of control was slipping, his eyes darted to Jack, lips curling into something colder. Then a threat. This isn't over, Morgan, Blackwood called out, voice low but sharp. Those dogs, they still belong to me. One way or another, I'm getting them back. Is that a threat, Mr. Blackwood? Senator Caldwell said smoothly. Because threatening a federal witness comes with consequences. Before Blackwood could answer, the bailiff's voice rang out. All rise. The judge was back. Everyone retook their seats. Jack felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Momentum had shifted, but the danger hadn't passed. Given the new evidence, the judge said, his voice tight, this court grants temporary custody of the animals to Mr. Morgan, pending further investigation into the Blackwood Foundation's operations. Jack exhaled. Lily's hand squeezed his S. She allowed herself a tiny smile. Furthermore, the judge added, I am issuing a restraining order preventing any Blackwood Foundation staff from approaching the Morgan residence or the animals involved. Outside, as they emerged into the blinding flash of cameras, Caldwell and Sheriff Reynolds flanked them. You're gonna need protection, the senator murmured. Jack didn't disagree. Jack's voice was low. Blackwood won't back off that easy. I've already arranged extra security at your place, Reynolds replied. But honestly, it might be smarter to lay low somewhere else. Jack gave a curt nod, mentally ticking through the emergency plan he'd crafted the day he uncovered. Eleanor's files, we've got a place. Remote, no one knows it but us. Martha gave his arm a quick squeeze. Don't tell me where, safer that way. As they approached the sheriff's SUV, Jack's eyes locked onto Blackwood, standing on the courthouse steps, speaking into his phone. The man didn't look angry, focused, to calm. The kind of calm that said, Plan A failed. Now we execute Plan B. We need to move. Now, Jack told Reynolds, his voice suddenly sharp, the dogs, they're not safe. The sky darkened fast as Reynolds floored the gas. The Morgan house lay ahead, but heavy clouds hung low like the warning breath of a storm. Jack clutched his phone, jaw tight, trying again to reach Martha. Still nothing, he muttered, his voice tight with unease. She was supposed to be home already. Could be the storm, Reynolds offered, but the speedometer said otherwise. Cell signal always got patchy out here when weather rolled in. Lily sat silently in the back seat, face pale and still, eyes glued to the window. She hadn't spoken since leaving court, but Jack could feel her anxiety humming beneath the surface. She'd grown impossibly close to the rescue dogs, especially Shadow, the black shepherd who'd seemed to understand her in ways no one else could. We're almost there, Jack reassured her, glancing back and reaching for her hand. Martha's probably tied up feeding them. Lily's reply was barely above a whisper. They're afraid, Daddy. I can feel it. The turn onto their street came too fast, and Jack's stomach dropped at the sight, waiting for them. The front door swung open in the wind, the frame splintered. Martha's old blue Buick was parked crooked, the driver's side door hanging wide. Stay. Here, Reynolds barked, drawing his weapon as he braked hard. Both of you. Jack didn't listen. He was already out of the SUV. Martha, he yelled, sprinting toward the house. Inside was pure disorder, furniture toppled, broken glass on the hardwood, deep scuff marks on the floor. But what made Jack freeze was the silence. No paws skittering, no excited barking. Martha, he swept into the kitchen and stopped cold. She lay sprawled across the linoleum, blood seeping from a cut above her brow. Her face twisted in pain. She blinked slowly as Jack dropped to his knees beside her. Jack, she slurred, confused. They took them, soon as I got in. 3 men, all in black. Moved like pros. She winced as she tried to sit up. I fired once. Daddy's old revolver didn't slow him down. Reynolds appeared, face dark. Ambulance is close. No sign of the dogs. Tire tracks lead from the back, looks like they used the patio. Entrance. Jack helped Martha lean against the cabinets. When maybe 20 minutes ago she gasped, clutching a dish towel to her head. Felt like they were waiting. Like they knew what happened at court. Like they had it queued up. A soft noise behind them made all 3 turn. Lily stood frozen in the hall. Tears streaked down her cheeks. Her small frame trembled. They drugged them, she whispered. I can feel it. They used something to make them sleep. Jack rose to reach her, but Lily took a step back, eyes hardening. We have to find them now, before they get them on the boat. Jack blinked. What? Boat, baby. Mr. Blackwood's boat. The big one with the black glass. They're putting the dogs on it right now. She said it with the quiet authority of someone who knew. Shadow's fighting the drug, she added. He's trying to stay awake. He's showing me. Martha staggered up with Jack's help, ignoring Reynolds' protests. Listen to her. Jack, that girl's got the same gift Eleanor had. Reynolds looked doubtful, but professional. I'll alert nearby units, scan outgoing traffic, especially near the marina. But unless we know exactly Miller's Point, Lily interrupted. That hidden place Mommy took pictures. Jack felt his breath stop. Miller's Point, privately owned by Blackwood, remote, only reachable by sea or a long road, Eleanor had photographed a heavily secured compound hidden behind a fake wildlife sanctuary. We can't barge in based on a hunch, Reynolds started. She's not guessing, Jack snapped. Her instinct led us to those dogs. Now Blackwood's kidnapped animals placed legally under my care. That's a felony, Mike. He assaulted me too, Martha added, eyes blazing despite her swaying legs. Thunder cracked outside, shaking the window. Rain hit the roof like a drumline. The storm had arrived. Martha needs a hospital, Reynolds said firmly, and we need a plan. Blackwood's compound is wire-armed men, surveillance, the works. We don't have time, Jack countered, panic seeping in. Once those dogs vanish into that place, they're gone, just like the ones in those shipping containers. Lightning flashed, and a deafening boom followed. The power blinked out. Shadows overtook the room. Storm's here, Reynolds muttered. They issued a warning. High winds, flooding, small craft alerts already active. Jack's thoughts raced. By water, Miller's Point was only 20 minutes out if they left now. By road, nearly an hour, and that's in good weather. He made up his mind. I'm going by boat. You're out of your mind, Reynolds snapped. That's suicide. In this storm, and you can't bring Lily. I have to go, Lily insisted, her voice fierce. Shadow needs me. He's calling. Martha's trembling hand found Lily's cheek. Just like your mama, she whispered. The Morgan women always saw what others couldn't. The wail of sirens cut through the night air, mingling with the drumming rain. The ambulance had arrived. Mike, Jack began, voice low but loaded with urgency. I've done everything by the book. Filed petitions, secured a court order, stayed within the system. And while we were still driving back from that courthouse, thugs violated that order, attacked Martha, and stole those dogs. The law isn't keeping us safe. Reynolds looked conflicted, caught between his duty as sheriff and his loyalty to Jack Hand, his own gut sense of right and wrong. Give me 30 minutes, Jack said. That's all I'm asking. Let me move first. They may not have 30 minutes, Jack shot back, already pushing through the back door that opened onto their dock. Lily and I will go in from the water. You roll up from the road. If we time it right, we corner him. Jack, the storm. Seen worse, Jack snapped, cutting him off. Nobody knows these waters like I do. Outside, the wind had picked up, flinging rain sideways in violent bursts. Jack hoisted Lily into his arms, shielding her with his coat as they ran to the covered dock where the Second Chance bobbed wildly. The bay, usually calm and glassy, was now a boiling mess of whitecaps. The boat slammed against the bumpers with each wave. This isn't safe, Reynolds called out, chasing them down the dock. Jack, think of Lily. I am thinking of Lily, Jack shouted over his shoulder. I'm thinking about what she's lost: her mom, her dog, her sense of safety. I'm thinking sometimes doing the safe thing isn't the right thing. He got Lily settled in the cabin and handed her a small life vest. She slid it on without a word, her face pale but composed, her eyes carrying a weight no sense should bear. You sure about this, lily pad? Jack knelt, face level with hers. It's gonna be rough. I'm already scared, Daddy, she said softly. But Shadow needs us, and I think Mommy's helping him. Jack's throat tightened. How do you tell your kid her dead mom isn't reaching out through a dog? That what she's feeling is probably just grief dressed up as magic. But as he looked into Lily's eyes, he wasn't so sure. Something was happening, something bigger than logic. As he stalked the boat, checking the flares, radio, and dry bags, Reynolds made one last plea. Leave her with me, the sheriff said, his voice cracking. Whatever you're walking into, a kid shouldn't see that. Jack paused. He remembered the pictures Eleanor had left, the ones sealed in the waterproof case. Dogs in cages. Dogs half dead from whatever training Blackwood was doing. If Blackwood planned to erase all traces now, another flash of lightning lit up Lily's face in the window. She wasn't crying, wasn't shaking, just waiting, resolute. She stays, Jack said firmly. I lost her mom. I'm not losing her too. The Second Chance roared to life, the engine barely managing against the tide. Jack eased them out of the dock and into open water and straight into the storm's fury. The tour boat, never built for weather like this, lurched violently. I'll alert emergency services, Reynolds shouted, and Jack, don't be a damn hero. If it gets bad, just get out. Jack gave a single nod, knowing damn well it was a promise he might not be able to keep. As they powered deeper into the storm, a chill climbed his spine. Felt like he was retracing Eleanor's steps, her last desperate mission to expose Blackwood. She'd left with proof she'd never come back. The thought of history repeating with Lily on board this time was enough to steal his breath. Hold on, lily pad, he yelled over the wind, waves slamming the hull. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. Her reply was swept away by the gale, but Jack saw her face, focused, unshaken. Somehow older than her years, they surged forward into chaos, into danger, toward something that had been building for 2 long years. Eleanor's death, Scouts, sacrifice, Shadow's sudden return. It all led here, a reckoning through the curtain of rain. Blackwood's compound emerged like a prison from some fevered dream, all sharp edges and floodlights bleeding through the downpour. Jack cut the engine. The second chance drifted in quietly with the tide. His fingers gripped the wheel like steel cables, calm but keyed up. He knew these waters, knew how to read them. "Stay low," he whispered to Lily. She crouched in the cabin, eyes locked forward, her small frame dwarfed by the bulky life vest and rain-soaked hoodie. "We'll tie up at the end away from the lights." By some twist of fate, they'd crossed the bay undetected. The summer squall, now in full rage, masked everything sound, motion. Presence. Jack eased them alongside Blackwood's massive dock, solid concrete and metal, not like the rickety piers around the bay. Moored nearby was a sleek, dark yacht. No signs of life inside. "That's it," Lily said, pointing at the vessel. "That's where they are." Jack secured the boat low on the dock, using the yacht's shadow for cover. "How do you know?" "Shadow told me," she replied, like she was talking about the weather. "They're drugging him, but he's still fighting." The logical part of Jack's mind screamed that this was impossible. Dogs didn't send messages, kids didn't receive them. But after the last few days, nothing felt impossible anymore. The evidence, the dreams, the way Shadow had found them. "All right," Jack said, checking the waterproof case, Eleanor's damning photos, the flare gun, a flashlight. "We stay quiet. If you see anyone hide, promise me." Lily nodded solemnly, gripping his hand. Together, they crept down the rain-slicked dock, clothes plastered to their bodies. The wind howled, drowning their FOOTFALLS. Each step forward felt like the closing moments before judgment, the end of silence, the start of something raw and irreversible. As they crept forward, faint light spilled from the main house, casting slivers of illumination across the sprawling property, revealing bits of storage sheds, a tall perimeter fence, and what looked like kennels nestled behind the main structure. "Security cams," Jack muttered, spotting them mounted every 20 feet. He yanked Lily behind a rusted storage container. "We can't go through the front, too exposed." She pointed toward a small maintenance door near the dock. "That's where they brought the cages in." Jack paused, his gut screaming too, "Wait for Reynolds." But the sheriff was still coming in from the highway, probably slowed by fallen trees, and if Blackwood was tying up loose ends, that 30-minute wait might cost lives. They kept low, hugging the darkness, flinching at every gust of wind or shifting branch. Jack tried the handle, locked figures. But after years fixing boats, he knew a thing or two. He slipped a multi-tool from his pocket, whispered, "Just like unsticking that cabin door," and got to work. The lock gave with a quiet click. "Stay behind me. And if I say run, you run to the boat. Don't look back." Inside was a dim loading bay, crates stacked high, the sharp bite of chemicals hanging in the air familiar, bitter. Jack recognized it instantly. The same toxic trace Eleanor had found in the water by Blackwood's drainage site. "Come on." Emergency lighting flickered. Dimly above, power had clearly been hit by the storm. Jack offered a silent thanks to the chaos outside. As they moved, door after door flashed past. Conditioning chamber, specimen control, aggression suppression. Eleanor's voice echoed in Jack's head notes, scrawled in panic. "They're not training them. They're dismantling them, turning them into weapons." A noise halted the muffled voices. Two people, mid-argument. Jack pulled Lily into a shallow doorway, finger to his lips. He recognized the first voice, immediately Blackwood's. "The storm's our window, but Reynolds is closing fast. We can't risk another specimen getting loose." A woman replied, calm but cold. "They're still under. We can't move the boat yet." "Read," Jack hissed, remembering her smug testimony. "Coast Guard won't question our clearance," Blackwood snapped. "Just load the damn things. We'll finish the transfer at Facility B. Morgan's being handled. By morning, there's no trail." Jack felt his stomach drop. No witnesses. Martha was still alive, but for how long? And Reynolds, Daddy, Lily whispered, voice tight, "They're in there." She pointed past the arguing pair, toward a reinforced door. But before Jack could think of a move, the entire compound howled to life. Sirens blared, red strobes bathed the corridor in bloodlight. "Main gate breach," someone shouted. "Sheriff's Department, multiple units." Jack's heart leaped. Reynolds had made it early. "Get the cargo on the boat," Blackwood barked. Take the service elevator. I'll stall Reynolds. Their footsteps faded fast. Jack had seconds. Don't move, he told Lily, pushing her into the alcove. Not unless I come for you. Promise me. Her face was ghostly pale, but she nodded. Find Shadow, Daddy. He'll protect us. Jack raced for the door she'd pointed to. Inside, a lab, stark white and humming with machines. For steel cages lined the walls inside, for German shepherds, groggy but alive. He rushed to them. Hey boys, he whispered. Rusty let out a soft whine. Bear tried lifting his big head. Max blinked slowly, and Shadow was already standing, swaying, but locked on Jack with fierce, alert eyes. Let's get you home, Jack said, inspecting the locks. Card key access. No time. But these weren't high-security enclosures. Using his tool, he attacked the lock on Shadow's cage. Behind him, chaos grew boots, slamming against concrete, radios squawking, wind howling through busted vents. The lock snapped. Shadow nudged the door open and stumbled out, shaky but focused. He went straight to the other cages, pawing at the latches, as if telling Jack, here, next. Good boy, Jack murmured. He freed Max, then Bear, then Rusty. The elevator clanged open at the far end. Reinforcements, here to move the dogs. They were out of time. Go find Lily, Jack urged. Shadow didn't hesitate. The black shepherd led the others out of the lab, pausing to make sure Jack followed. They moved as one, padding fast but unevenly back down the corridor, when to find the alcove where Lily had been, empty. Lily, he shouted, fear cracking through his chest. Lily, Shadow took off down a side hall, the others close behind. Jack chased them, heart pounding, brain spiraling. They barreled through a double door into what looked like a control room, monitors flickering with surveillance footage from across the grounds. At the main gate, Reynolds' team was pinned in a tense standoff with Blackwood's private guards, but front and center on one of the screens. Jack saw Lily being held tight by Dr. Reed. The child struggled, shouting something Jack couldn't hear through the glass. Daddy! Her voice finally broke through as they entered. Let her go! Jack growled, stepping forward. The shepherds spread out instantly, Shadow taking the lead, low and silent, eyes locked on Reed like a blade ready to strike. Shadow bristled, his body rigid even through the haze of the tranquilizer. Across the room, Dr. Reed's expression cracked with real alarm. How did you? She began. But Luke A. cut her off, voice clipped as she regained control. It doesn't matter. You're too late, Mr. Morgan. Blackwood's already handling your cop friend, and I have a boat waiting. With a sharp motion, she yanked Lily close, using the girl like a human shield. Call off your mutts, or things get ugly. They're not mine, Jack said evenly, a strange stillness settling over him. They make their own calls. Right then, Shadow growled a low, resonant rumble that filled the room like thunder. The other dogs moved as one, fanning out into a tight half circle, blocking Reed's exit. Their government assets, Reed snapped, panic now cracking her clinical cool. Their condition programmed to obey. They wouldn't dare. But she stopped when Shadow stepped forward, not attacking, just placing his body square between her and the door. The meaning couldn't be clearer. Lily wasn't going anywhere. Let my daughter go, Jack said again, his voice steady, unwavering. Whatever Blackwood's giving you, it's not worth what's coming. The room froze, Reed clutching. The child, dogs ready to strike. Jack inching forward until a new voice sliced through the tension like a scalpel. I warned Vanessa her protocols had flaws, came Blackwood's voice from the doorway behind Jack. Some dogs can't be broken, especially the loyal ones. Jack turned, just enough to keep both enemies in his line of sight. Blackwood stood there like he'd strolled in from a dinner party instead of walking into a collapsing criminal ring. In his palm, something black and metallic glinted under the fluorescence. Tracking unit, he explained, catching Jack's stare. The chips we implant do more than track location. They allow for full-spectrum control. He pressed a button. All 4 dogs went rigid, their bodies seizing. Shadow stayed upright through sheer will, but the others collapsed, twitching in pain. Stop, Lily sobbed, her voice breaking. You're hurting them. Exactly, Blackwood said coolly. Pain compliance works wonders on stubborn specimens. Jack surged forward, aiming to knock the device from Blackwood's grip, but Blackwood moved like a snake, stepping aside. "Don't be stupid," he warned. "One more click, and they get a full charge." "You willing to kill them yourself?" Jack froze, heart pounding. He was out of options. The dogs were suffering. Lily was a prisoner. And Blackwood held every card. "What do you want?" Jack asked. "Same as always," Blackwood said. To finish my work without nosy interruptions. Eleanor didn't get it. The military potential alone is staggering. Imagine dogs that follow commands without thought, sacrifice without fear, tools, not pets. "You're creating weapons," Jack spat. "No," Blackwood corrected. "I'm expanding evolution, just like I did with Scout." Jack's heart skipped. "What did you say, Scout?" Blackwood said, a cold smile curling his lip. "Didn't you ever wonder about the dog your wife rescued?" "Eleanor pulled him from our test program. He was promising but too attached. We tracked him, like all of them." Jack's mind raced. "Scout saved Lily," he whispered, the horror unfolding. "That's how Eleanor found you. She traced his origin after he died." Blackwood gave a slight nod. Always the smart one. "She didn't just photograph us from afar, she got in. Downloaded files even the military hasn't seen." "You killed her," Jack said, the confirmation like a knife to the chest. "I protected national security," Blackwood replied, "and I'll do it again. Dr. Reed, take the girl to Medoc. I'll bring the others once I've handled Mr. Morgan." Through the agony pulsing in him, Shadow looked toward Lily. Something passed between them, silent, deep. Then Lily did the unthinkable. She slumped, dead weight in Reed's arms. Caught off guard, the woman readjusted her grip. In that second, Lily's small hand shot out, yanked the ID badge off Reed's lanyard, and screamed, "Run!" She flung the badge toward Shadow, who snatched it midair and bolted, pain still visible in his stride. "Get him!" Blackwood shouted, refocusing the controller on Shadow alone. The other dogs went limp with relief. Reed dropped Lily and tore after Shadow. It was the opening Jack needed. He launched at Blackwood, driving him into the wall of monitors. The controller skidded across the floor. Around them, Jack barely registered, Bear, Max, and Rusty rising. Lily scrambling away, Reed and guards in hot pursuit. "You don't get it," Blackwood growled, landing a punch across Jack's cheek. "This is bigger than you or your mutts. This is for Eleanor," Jack growled back, blood in his mouth. Their fight tore across the room. Blackwood, despite his age, was strong disciplined. But Jack had grief, rage, and 2 years of unanswered questions boiling in his veins. Documented everything, Jack panted between hits. Every procedure, every animal, every backdoor deal. And she made sure it didn't die with her. For the first time, Blackwood's mask cracked. "Where?" he snarled. "Where did she put it?" A loud crash outside made them both turn. Through the doorway, Shadow came tearing back down the corridor. Something in his jaws read, and 2 guards chasing close behind. He was headed straight for the command center, straight for Lily. 1 month after the storm that tore their world open, Jack Morgan stood at the edge of his dock in Pelican Harbor, the sunset staining the water with molten gold. The second chance, bobbed at his side, restored and ready. On her hull, freshly painted under the name, read a new inscription, Eleanor's Legacy. "Coffee's gonna go cold," Martha called from the porch, her voice stronger than it had been in weeks. She hadn't returned to her home. She said the Morgans still needed her. Jack lingered a moment longer, letting the warmth of the afternoon settle over him like a warm blanket. Then, with a quiet smile, he turned and headed toward the house, taking in the peaceful scene unfolding. On the lawn, there, in a patch of soft grass, Lily sat cross-legged, surrounded by the 4 shepherds who had, in one way or another, saved her life. Max, no longer skin and bones, but sleek and strong from weeks of real food and love, had his head nestled in her lap. Rusty, the youngest, darted around her, proudly presenting her with gifts, a twig, a wildflower, once even Martha's bifocals, to the poor woman's dismay. Bear, the massive, calm-hearted one, patrolled the fence line with slow, watchful steps. His instincts to survive had shifted into something gentler, guarding, not escaping. Closest to Lily lay Shadow Scout's brother. The DNA results had finally confirmed it. He barely blinked, his gaze locked on Lily's face like she was the only thing anchoring him to the world. Whatever tether had been formed between them that night at Blackwoods was still there. Jack sometimes caught them sitting quietly, girl and dog, as if exchanging thoughts in a language no one else could hear. "You telling stories again?" Jack asked, approaching with a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in years. The way Lily looked up, that smile, Eleanor's smile, it could still stop his heart. "Shadow likes to hear about Scout," she said softly, "and about Mom." No one would forget the chaos at Miller's Point. Shadow had come sprinting from the dark, clutching the small data drive between his teeth, while the others had formed a tight wall around Lily, that drive hidden in a safe. Accessed using Dr. Reed's stolen badge, contained everything, Eleanor's full records, years of surveillance, and, most important, a video she had recorded just before she died, her face steady on the screen, her voice low and resolute. "I'm hiding this somewhere. They'll never think to look," Eleanor said on that video. "If you're seeing this, then I didn't make it. Jack, Lily, I love you more than anything in this world. And I tried. I swear I tried." It was that video, more than anything, that lit the match. After Shadow led the raid team straight to the command center, the compound fell apart. Blackwood ran for his boat, but Jack had slipped a GPS tag onto his gear. Sheriff Reynolds was already at the marina, waiting with a badge and a warrant. "Earth to Jack," Martha said, handing him a steaming mug as he reached the porch. "You're out there reliving it again, huh?" Jack took the coffee with a nod, eyes distant. "Hard not to," he said. The fallout had hit hard and fast. Blackwood had been charged with everything from illegal weapons development to Eleanor murder. His so-called foundation had been gutted, its rescue front handed over to people who actually gave a damn. Colonel Harrison court-martialed Dr. Reed, turned witness to save himself. And Senator Caldwell had made sure Eleanor's files went before Congress, her work sparking new laws to protect animals from military use. "What's got you stuck this time?" Martha asked, when Jack didn't speak. "Just gratitude," he said finally, "for Lily's safety, for justice, for what Eleanor left behind. And yeah," he smirked, "even for you, though don't let that go to your head." Martha gave a snort. "Too late, hee-ho. I've always known I was the glue holding this circus together." From the yard, Lily's voice called out, "Dad! Shadow wants to show you something." Jack handed off his mug and headed toward her. Shadow was sitting stiffly near the edge of the property, something clenched carefully in his mouth. When Jack got close, the dog laid it gently at his feet, a faded strip of blue cloth. Jack froze. "That's from Eleanor's bandana," he whispered, lifting it like it might vanish, the one she wore on the boat. His fingers trembled. "Where'd you find this?" "By the big oak," Lily said, eyes serious. "He's been digging there for days. He told me Mom left something important." Jack shared a look with Martha, now standing behind him. "You do realize dogs can't talk," he teased gently. "Not with words," Lily said, nodding. "But Shadow knows stuff, special stuff, and truthfully, Jack didn't have the heart to argue. Not after everything they'd lived through." They followed the dog to the old oak tree near the back fence. Fresh dirt showed where he'd been working. "Should I grab a shovel?" Jack asked, half joking. But Shadow beat him to it, digging furiously until something glinted below the soil. Jack dropped to his knees, heartbeat thundering, and pulled out a small waterproof container, much like the one they'd found in the floorboards, but slimmer. Inside a single envelope. Eleanor's handwriting was unmistakable. "For Lily, when the time is right, Dad," Lily breathed, her hand finding his. Jack opened it carefully. Inside were three things: a letter, a tiny silver key, and a photograph, Eleanor holding a tiny German Shepherd pup with a beaming younger Lily at her side. Jack cleared his throat and began to read. "My dearest Lily," he said aloud, "if you're reading this, it means you uncovered the truth, just like I knew you would. You have something special, me, amor, a way of seeing the world that others don't always understand, but that's your gift. Let it lead you when the path gets dark." Jack paused to blink away tears. "This key opens a safety deposit box at Pelican Harbor Bank. Inside, there's a trust for you. Yes, money, but also something bigger. A foundation I built to protect the sacred bond between humans and animals. I called it Scout's Honor. One day, it will be yours." Martha dabbed her eyes with her apron. no shame in her grief. "That woman," she murmured. "She was always playing the long game." Jack read the final lines slowly. "Remember, brave girl, love doesn't die. It changes shape. It finds new homes. It comes back when we need it most. Look for me in the sunrise, in the waves, in the loyal eyes of those who protect you. I'm never far. All my love, forever, Mom." As he folded the letter, Shadow leaned into Lily, his fur a warm shield. The other dogs joined them, forming a quiet ring of guardians. "She knew," Lily whispered, her voice small but clear. "She knew we'd find it all someday." Jack wrapped his arm around her, holding her close eyes on the family they'd become. Martha, Lily for extraordinary dogs, and the echo of a woman who'd never stopped believing. "Your mom used to say," he murmured, "that everything in the sea eventually finds its way home." He looked toward the harbor, where the water met the sky in a shimmer of memory and promise. Maybe she was right, about more than I ever gave her credit for. The day dimmed gently around them as they walked back toward the house that had once been a shell and now brimmed with warmth, laughter, and purpose. Behind them, Pelican Harbor whispered against the shore, cradling secrets and stories still waiting to surface. And Jack knew that Eleanor was smiling somewhere. Sometimes life breaks you wide open just so love can find its way in. Like Jack and Lily Morgan, we've all known lost partners gone, futures stolen, wounds we thought would never close. We've stood alone at the edge of things, wondering if hope would ever return. But Lily's story, it reminds us that healing doesn't always arrive like thunder. Sometimes it pads in on 4 silent feet and curls up beside your brokenness. Those shepherds weren't just dogs. They were proof. Proof that love leaves breadcrumbs, in the roots of old trees, in the tide, in the faithful eyes of those who protect us. If we've lived long enough, we know life's delicate. But we've also learned this: it's stubborn, too. So when grief weighs heavy, remember Pelican Harbor, remember Eleanor, and know that even the deepest wounds can lead us home if we're willing to follow.